Welcome to the Community of Growth podcast. I'm Dre Dinsmore, and I've been hosting events for 10 years, which has allowed me to meet some amazing people. So I created this podcast to highlight those people so we can ultimately learn from their journeys, take from what they've learned along the way, and just add value to all of our listeners here. And with me today, I have the lovely Berenice Sanchez. How are you today, Berenice?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you, Dre?
I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely, definitely. So yeah, my first question for you, Berenice, is just what really made you want to switch from having a typical 9 to 5 job into owning your own franchise?
Well, the reason that made me want to switch from my 9 to 5 job and to own my own business started years ago when I moved to Austin, Texas in 2009. I had a goal in mind of taking control of my life and the freedom to create and live in my own terms. So I kept my vision and worked towards it by self-development, and reading and meditation played a big role in making a shift from my 9 to 5 to take a leap of faith and become a business owner.
Great, that's
So
amazing.
how about you, Dre? What made you switch from your 9 to 5 job to own your own real estate company?
Yeah, so I never even actually had like a 9 to 5 job. I got into real estate right out of college, and it was a very interesting time and scenario. A lot of people don't know this, but I actually got into real estate. I moved to Houston in September 2017. That was like right when Hurricane Harvey actually happened. And it was
Oh,
a crazy time because there was like a literal dark cloud over the city, but also everyone was just not in like the best mood. And the last thing they wanted to hear was someone talk to them if they wanted to buy or sell real estate. So yeah, but from just a young age, I just always felt that I would thrive in a role like more. I had more control. I wasn't locked into an office 9 to 5 every day, and my income wasn't capped. And so I just always thought I would, just myself do better in the situation where I had more control and I could decide what I wanted to do, how I did it, everything like that. And yeah, that's really what drove me to real estate. Just I had to have a mindset too that I'm gonna do whatever it takes to make it work. And if you have that same mindset and you want to test it, do what I did, move to a city, just had a major hurricane where you don't know a single soul there, and see what happens. Yeah.
yes, I understand. It happened to me being here in Austin without no one and 2 kids. Trust me, I took a leap of faith and I just jumped into it. But it took me a while later. I had a 9 to 5 for a while. So I was an industrial engineer, and then I switched to interior design
Oh,
through
for
a
sure.
franchise.
Oh, for sure. And what is the process like exactly of purchasing your own franchise?
Well, I learned about the concept of franchisee owner after a few years, and it became familiar after I talked to a friend and the desire of investing on a business. And she happened to be a franchisee broker or a franchisee consultant. So I was very lucky or blessed to have her as a friend. And I didn't know exactly what she was doing, but then when I told her, I'm looking for a type of investment where I can do my own. And I was planning on doing it on the side, but then it became something that I needed to quit my job in order to pay attention and be profitable in my own business, because you cannot have two things going on. You have to focus on one exclusively to make it happen. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So we worked closely and met twice a week at the beginning. We explored possibilities and according to my business skills and desires. And well, one day she went to Las Vegas franchise convention, and she came back and told me, "Oh, I met this amazing franchise about decorating the interiors." And I was totally in. We started with the process of interviewing with the franchise. They told me about how it works, the profitability. I talked to other franchisee owners and I was completely sold on it. And it went through the process. I went through a tough qualification process, exams. I went to take classes and it took a while, but it finally completed, and it started with my business in 2020. Yes.
That's great. That's awesome. And are there any helpful like resources or websites you would recommend to someone who wants to either purchase or own their own business at some point?
Well, I recommend meeting with a franchisee consultant or broker. That's what it works better because they get to learn about you and what you like, and they offer you different type of options, and it whatever suits you better, you can go for it. It depends. It's like in real estate. You have to have a budget. You have to know what you want and what you like, right? So it's type of aligned with that term as a franchise consultant. Other way is look online and see about the franchise that suits you better. Like if you like the food industry, go to McDonald's and they might have in their website, they have franchise opportunities
They
in
do, they
any
do.
of those chain restaurants or outlets, right? So
Definitely.
that's a way to do it.
Definitely. And then, what would you say are like some of the struggles or the downsides of being a business owner that most people aren't aware of or just don't know about?
Well, you have to hustle, that's for sure. So definitely the marketing plays a big role at keeping your business up and running. So talking to people, calling them, meeting up in person, and knowing that not everyone is going to be your ideal client. You got to have a selection process, right? The screening them, having that first call, Zoom meeting, in-person meeting, talking about budget, signing agreements, contracts. So it's a process. It's not easy, but you have long hours of creative work depending on what you do, marketing and finance. So you have to have a process in place to make it work and outsource it in a certain point, right? So keep
Sure.
learning and being up to date to what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
So what about you? What do you think it's what are the downsides or struggles that you might want to let people know?
Yeah, I would just kind of say the sacrifices you have to make. If you're someone who wants to stop working at like 5 p.m. every single day and then not even look at any more work emails or any phone calls, texts or
No,
that relate to
that's not
work,
work.
it's probably not gonna work out for you, honestly. If you don't wanna work weekends, like every on a Saturday or Sunday, if you don't wanna do that, 'cause, I know I do that every weekday. I work late into the night, and then I know you do as well, and then I work pretty much every weekend as too. I know you do that too, so if you're not one to do that, then just be honest with yourself, 'cause, you don't wanna quit, or a good solid 9 to 5 job with a good income to do something that's not probably not gonna pan out, because it does require a lot of sacrifice, much more time than people think,
Yeah,
and, yeah, and if you don't plan for it and budget for it correctly, then it could, yeah, just not go well, and if you do leave steady income, it might it might be hard to get back into it, so just things to think
definitely.
before you jump, head on full in there, so,
I see. Yeah, I agree.
yeah, and so what do you think is the most important thing in terms of, like, scaling your business or just growing it consistently?
Customer satisfaction, definitely. Giving the most wonderful experience to the clients that they will put a great review in my platforms and will recommend me and with their friends and family and become a recurrent client. So that's very important. And the more demand, the bigger the team in my business. So more job opportunities and partnerships in terms of scaling and growing my business, definitely.
That's amazing, that's amazing. Okay, one more question for you here. What is one piece of advice you would give to someone who is looking to potentially either purchase a franchise or start their own business from scratch? Just start from square one, basically. What's the kind of the biggest or most important thing you would tell them?
Work on your self development. That's the first thing that you have to do. Read as many entrepreneurial books that motivates you to work towards your goals and stay focused. Don't doubt yourself and take massive action.
That's amazing. I
What
love
do
that.
you think, Ray? What is it, a piece of advice that you will tell them?
Yeah, so Warren Buffett says don't start something that you don't see yourself doing 20 years from now. So that's one thing. And then another thing too is, just decide ultimately, is this going to be like a side hustle that you work on 2 to 3 days a week for maybe a few
Mhm.
hours here and there? Or is it going to be like, your sole full-time income that you live off of? Because those are two very different things. And if you do, want it to make it your sole full-time income, like really study yourself, learn, know who you are as a person. What type of situations do you thrive in? What situations do you not do so well in? What are you passionate about? What can you see yourself doing for the rest of your career? And just decide on that because yeah, you don't want to start doing something that you don't really enjoy, you don't really care much for. Because if it's, I can tell you from experience, it's a lot harder to keep that going for the long term if you don't really believe in whatever you're doing, believe in the cause, or have no passion for it. So there's that. And then maybe just one last thing too, you definitely want to plan out like a budget for it. I'm some people are more risk averse. I wouldn't say I'm in that category, but I would recommend having at least like 3 to 6 months worth of savings or monthly
Right.
expenses before you start that business. Instead of just going, full on head in with like no, not at least 3 to 4 months of expenses saved up. Because if you don't do that, then you could be setting yourself up to fail from day one. So
Yeah, and another thing, just as a comment towards what you said, it's that also if you're an established business owner, you can have a loan to begin with if that's a constraint. Don't let anything to stop you. But yeah, definitely 6 months to a year. And of course, you don't want to be in debt. So you work towards paying that loan as fast as possible because you don't want to get the interest rate, right? So,
mhm, of
um,
course.
but there are ways. So if you really want to do something, you will find a way to get it in
Yeah,
any
yeah, and
aspect.
kinda like I mentioned earlier, it's, kind of on your mindset, I believed from a young age I would do whatever it takes to make it happen, and I
Mhm.
feel like you were the exact same way, and, yeah, I mean, you have to when you tell yourself that, you have to maybe, do some soul searching, like, "Hey, what is my work ethic? How strong is it? Is it that good, or do I think it's that good?" Just, just be honest with yourself and be real, and,
Right.
if you do that
And
and you still feel like this is what you wanna do and pursue for the rest of your career, then go all
yes,
out.
and have fun and
Enjoy it, yeah,
make friends with your clients, and everything is set.
of course, of course. Well, awesome. Well, thank you, Berenice. I really appreciate it. We are at the conclusion of today's podcast. But yeah, hope our listeners got some great value and learned a lot from our session today. So thank you again. Have a blessed
Thank
day.
you. You too. Bye, Dre.